Which event is
Just because you're quiet doesn't mean you can't also be powerful. Join award-winning authors, activists, and confirmed introverts Lisa Hurley and Sharon Hurley Hall as they explore introversion, workplace culture, self-care, and much more. Each episode of the Introvert Sisters Live, which is the evolution of their original Anthem Award-winning podcast, blends thoughtful conversation, insightful analysis, and practical strategies through an intersectional lens. Created especially for those quiet souls who are so often overlooked and underestimated, the Introvert Sisters Live provides a serene space where neurodivergence is normalized, nuance is celebrated, depth is welcome, and introversion is honored as a strength.
Hello,
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 everyone.
hello. Hello, everyone.
We
And
are grateful that you have been able to bear with us. We had some serious technical difficulties, as they often happen, 2 minutes before we were due to go live. So we have been busily firefighting behind the scenes, and we appreciate you sticking with us as we deal with this very timely episode. Because I have to say, our mental health took a little bit of a bashing
our
when
mental health
when we
just took a back.
realized when we realized that the episode wasn't showing. Whew.
Okay, okay, sis. Can you do, me and us and our listeners and viewers a favor and let them know in the event, in the original event, that we are live, we are here, we are on, and of course, you know, life and the universe are always going to test you. Okay, they're going
Yeah.
to test you because today we are talking about the regulated introvert, how to self-soothe in a chaotic world. And let me tell you, we were put to the test because, as Sharon explained, there were quite a few, technical difficulties. So we were 100% in panic mode. But as you can tell, we have managed to soothe ourselves. I would say like down from 100 to about 50. So we have had to put our money where our mouths are. And so welcome to everyone who is here. Welcome to everyone who is joining us live. Welcome to Team Live and Team Replay. And so, like I said, we are talking about being regulated, talking about emotional regulation, about sensory overload, and all the things. And I want to start by making it clear that Sharon and I are speaking from lived experience. We are not therapists, we are not psychologists or psychiatrists or anything of the sort, but we do have lived experience, and this is the lens through which we are discussing this topic. We do advise anybody who is having serious issues with dysregulation or sensory overload and matters of that sort, definitely seek out a professional to help guide you through the process. What Sharon and I are going to be sharing are, again, things that we have learned and picked up based on our lived experience. And before we dive in fully, let's define, however, right, sis? Let's define what emotional dysregulation is. And we're going to take it from the pros, right? So according to Psychology Today, I'm just going to read this one. Emotional dysregulation is a complex collection of processes that are thought to include the following four main aspects: lack of awareness, understanding, and acceptance of emotion. That's number one. Number two is a lack of adaptive strategies for regulating emotions, the intensity or duration of those emotions. That's one of the areas we're going to focus on most deeply today. Number three, an unwillingness to experience emotional distress whilst pursuing your desired goals. And number four, an inability to engage in goal-directed behaviors when experiencing distress, like not being able to get your live event started and crashing out. And let me tell you, listen, this again, we had to put it into practice because we were literally It was what, 3 minutes before the show, sis? Right?
3 minutes before the show, nothing was working.
Nothing was working. And so this one thing that I did, I'm like, Sharon is always the, an oasis of calm, thank God, because both of us can't be like me, right? So I 100% stepped into little sister mode. I called my big sister. I said, Sharon, I need some help. This thing is not working. Can you please stay on the phone with me while I figure it out? So in other words, co-regulation. That's what I was seeking.
Co-regulation.
Co-regulation.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And to further ground the discussion, so given the 4 aspects of emotional dysregulation that we just mentioned, so some examples of those are avoidance, rumination, denial, emotional suppression, aggression, and venting. So that's what we're going to be focusing on today. So we just want to, like I said, although we are not professional mental health, we are not mental health professionals, but we do want to ground the discussion in reality and in science and what he. So that's how we move, and that's where we're started. Oh, and before we carry on, I see Leader Keys, which is Latrice, our wonderful, beautiful friend Latrice is in the comments, also co-regulating with us. And she said,
Yes.
y'all good, LinkedIn is a mess today. I am on YouTube watching today.
And
Thanks
yes, just remind you that you can tune into us on YouTube and on Facebook. So if
yes.
LinkedIn is not playing ball today, if it wasn't for us, don't forget that you have these other 2 platforms where you can still tune in to the introverted goodness.
Yes, absolutely. So I'll toss it over to you, Sharon. So when you hear the phrase regulated introvert, the regulated introvert, like what does that mean to you in real life? Apart from the example that we just discussed,
Well,
what
actually,
does that mean to
that
you
is
in real life?
actually a very good example because it's very important to understand where you are mentally and emotionally, and to take steps to balance yourself out. So you deciding to call me and have me stay on the phone, the fact that we were both there working on the issue together and trying different solutions, that was a great example of regulating ourselves. And once we started actually doing that, the initial feeling of panic definitely lessened.
Yes.
I think it's also about on a daily basis, right? On a daily basis, kind of tuning into yourself,
Mhm.
getting to understand, getting to understand what dysregulates you, because
Mhm.
there might be a number of things that dysregulate you on a regular basis. Getting to understand the signs within yourself that show that you're becoming dysregulated. And I know we're going to talk more about that later, so I won't go too far into that.
Mhm.
Um, and then taking steps to take charge of your recovery, to take charge of coming back to center, to take charge of feeling grounded, right?
Yes.
And there are all sorts of ways that dysregulation can show up for introverts and others. you know, you can be irritable for sure. I think definitely that. You can just shut down and not want to be about around
Mhm.
people. There can be brain fog, there can be tears. So it's not just about getting alone time. It's also about what do you do with that alone time to bring yourself back into balance.
Mhm.
And I'm happy to see Sue Ann in the house. Welcome, Sue Ann.
Hey, Suan.
Just dropped in. Just dropped
Thanks
in to
for
say hi as she's
thanks for
preparing
joining
for her
us.
own life.
But
So
that's what true support looks like. It's not that other
yeah,
people don't have stuff to do.
yeah.
Other people have stuff to do, we have stuff to do, but we make room and space and time for each other. And I absolutely love that. So Suan, Latrice, and everybody else has joined us. Thanks so much for being here and making time and taking time.
And
So
I
yeah,
wanted
go
to,
ahead.
I wanted to, I wanted to ask, why is it, in your opinion, that this conversation is so important now,
Mm.
today, at this time?
So I haven't done or seen any studies on this, but I would posit that the vast majority of humanity right now especially in areas around the world where there's there are wars, there's famine, there's political chaos, and we'll just leave it at that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we are dealing with a lot. We're dealing with that. We're dealing with the constant monumental increase in just the cost of living, and
Mm-hmm.
being expected to still somehow survive. The cost of living is going up, your salary or income is not increasing commensurately, but somehow we're supposed to survive and just not have a latte, and that's supposed to save us somehow. Right. And so
Yes.
there is a lot going on. And for me, certainly it feels like if every single day there is some new fire,
Mhm.
either literally or figuratively, that needs to be dealt with, needs to be processed. There are school shootings, there are all of the mainly Black women, but not only Black women, who are being unalived by their life partners and spouses. It's just so
Yes.
much. Not to mention the 600,000 plus Black women who have lost their jobs over the past 18 months or so. Right? There's a
Yes.
lot everyone is dealing with, and so there's a lot to regulate. People are feeling big feelings. People are having big emotions. People are feeling like they are, maybe a little overwhelmed, right?
Yes.
So I
Yes.
think
And
that's why
so,
this conversation is necessary. And of course, it's Mental Health Awareness Month. Now, every
yes,
month,
it should
I
be mental health. Okay,
every
where is
month
it?
I pause it should be Mental Health Awareness Month. But this
Yeah.
month is the month that we focus on it, and that's one of the reasons why we personally are doing this show right now.
And we got an amen from Ronald there. And Latrice says the world is in chaos as always, but it feels especially personal right now. Regulating is a daily necessity at this point. And
Mm,
yes, I agree. And that leads us very nicely into how do we start to recognize the
mhm,
signs that we are getting overwhelmed, overloaded, overstimulated, dysregulated. Because a lot of us, introverts and women, people, right, are
right.
taught to push through discomfort. So let's be specific. What, in your opinion, sis, are the early signs of emotional and sensory overload that introverts often ignore because they're trying to be polite, productive, easy
Mm.
to deal with, and avoid making waves?
Okay, great question. I would start with that there are some small, subtle signs that because your body is always talking to you. So
Mhm.
if your jaw is constantly clenched, if raise his hand, if your jaw is constantly clenched, if you grind your teeth at night, which I definitely I discovered that I do. Apparently, my teeth are like smooth. Shallow breathing, headaches. I remember, I think I've mentioned this on a previous episode, where there was one job where every time I would be fine when I left home, and when I got within 5 minutes of the entrance to the gate, I would get a migraine, right? That
Yeah.
kind of thing. Nausea, general muscle tension in your body, unexplained pains, racing thoughts, constant fatigue. All of those are signs that, now, they can be signs of other things, but the other
Mhm.
things are not what we're dealing with right now. Of course, always go to your, check in with
Medical
a medical
practitioner,
professional.
yes,
Always.
and check in and check
Always,
in.
always, always. But
Yeah.
in terms of dysregulation and overload, those are some of the first signs to at least make you stop and ask yourself a question.
Mhm.
Why is this showing up? Why is my jaw tight? I mean,
Why
we've
is it
already
happening every day? Why
right,
is
we've
it
already
happening every day?
exactly at the top of the show why my jaw is tight right now. And for those of you who are joining us on video and you can see me, I have my hands over my heart chakra right
Mhm.
now. And I'm a Reiki master Reiki practitioner. And so actually right now, in the moment, as we are doing this show, I am in the process of regulating myself by giving myself a Reiki treatment to help bring myself
And,
back to center.
and my hands are on my solar plexus.
There you
for the
go.
same reason.
There you go. Because we knew, right? It was like, okay, we have to calm ourselves down to be able to do this. We recognized, if you all had been a part of the pre-show, definitely I was speaking super quickly, you know, and a
Yes,
lot of I started
yes,
to get a
yes.
little bit of muscle tension.
Yes, like I think you just pulled back from the precipice of unraveling.
Yeah,
I
I was in
think that's fair.
pre-unravel. I was
Yeah.
definitely unraveled, but I recognized it. And this is one of the keys, right? The difference,
Yes.
there's a difference between being overwhelmed and being aware of being overwhelmed. Because
Yes.
a lot of us are overwhelmed, and we dismiss the headache or the muscle tension or whatever it happens to be as a one-off symptom.
Hmm.
Oh, okay, I have a headache, I'm just going to take something for it,
Yeah.
which again, definitely reduce
Yeah.
your pain levels, but also dig into the why and get aware,
Hmm.
like tune into your body and get aware of what your body is trying to communicate to you. So yeah, what are some other ways, sis, that dysregulation could show up in, like, say, let's say in terms of behavior?
In terms of behavior, I think you can just have a kind of untethered feeling, which it's hard to put
Mhm.
your fingers on it, but
Mhm.
you suddenly feel like fully you're not fully present, you're not fully connected, you feel a little disconnected. That will
Yeah.
often go along, I think, with other physical symptoms. Like for me, I can, dysregulation sometimes lives in my stomach and
Mhm.
sometimes in my head. Sometimes it's like, it's a bit like when, as an introvert, you go to that networking conference and you have been in the sessions and you get three-quarter way through the day and you can feel like the overwhelm rising up, right?
Mhm.
Rising up that way, right?
Yep.
And so I think that can actually happen in many other situations.
Mhm.
I too
Mhm.
have had jobs where, you know, my headache would appear on Monday morning and disappear on Friday afternoon,
Yep.
right? you know, some of those plantation jobs are not easy, I tell
They're
you, are
not.
not at all easy.
They're not.
And so, you know, th- I want to come back to, dismissing the headache. Having a headache one day is one thing. Having a headache every day that you're going into a situation, you're going to a particular environment is another thing. You
Mhm.
know, having that stomachache one day is one thing, right? But if you know you didn't eat any bad food, right, and you're still having it, then it probably means something else. If you find that you are just, I don't know quite how to,
Cranky.
because well, yes, because, sometimes you're innerly cranky because,
Yes.
we're so good at masking, we're so good at hiding what we're feeling. But you can tell that your reaction to something, your internal reaction to something, is a little bit, shall we say, less hinged than it should be.
Yes. Yes. It's kind of like completely out of proportion to what actually
Yes,
happened. Yeah. Yeah.
yes. And so you have to know what those signals are for yourself because they won't be the same for everyone.
Mhm.
And then you have to pay attention to them. I certainly find that when you start paying attention to them and when you start doing things to regulate yourself, it makes a difference to how you're able to move through the world,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Our Reiki treatments, case in point. But
Mhm.
there are lots of other ways that you can choose to regulate yourself. And again, that's going to be different for everyone, although there will be things that anyone can do.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And there are more serious signs as well. And I don't even
Hmm.
want I don't even actually, let me retract that, because I don't want to, everything is a continuum. So I don't want
Yeah.
to, tag some symptoms as more serious than others. But
Yeah.
for the purposes of the discussion, let's say signs such as self-harm, substance abuse, binge eating,
Hmm.
those are extremely, clearly very, very, very harmful to self, and sometimes to others around you as well. And look out, be aware, look out for whether those are showing up in yourself or somebody that you love that is close to you, and point them in the right direction. Okay.
Yeah.
Again, some of these can be dealt with on an individual level. They can be dealt with personally,
Mm-hmm.
how Sharon and I are now giving ourselves Reiki treatments to help keep
Mm-hmm.
ourselves, keep us calm and get ourselves back to
Mm-hmm.
center. But
Yeah.
obviously, substance abuse, self-harm,
Yeah.
that's something that needs to be dealt
Mm-hmm.
with professionally.
Profession.
So
Yeah.
again, we are
Yep.
always going
Yeah.
to say, be aware. We're raising awareness. So be aware and seek help from a professional.
Yes. Pay attention to if you're constantly feeling zoned out,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Pay attention to that. That means something. Pay attention to what feels like overstimulation. And, it's difficult sometimes to tell whether that is dysregulation or simply introvert sensory overload or autism or ADHD or ADHD overload. There's so many things, and there and, and
Interesting.
there's a Venn diagram of things that are in the middle of
Like
there.
this.
The Venn diagram, yeah, your Venn diagram is a circle, right? Um, and so you have to pay attention, and I want to reiterate what Lisa said earlier. There's a difference between being unaware of overwhelm and aware of overwhelm.
Mhm.
Because when you are aware of it, then that gives you the option to to do something about it, right?
Yes. Yes.
Right. So
Um,
how
yeah. Carry
how
on,
do we
sis.
do that? How do we do that? This is where the self-soothing part comes in, right, sis?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
it is not. It's important. It's important to be able to do it for
Hmm.
yourself. You know.
Yeah. There are times where that phrase that I have a kind of a love-hate relationship with, right? Nobody's coming to save you. That always sounds
Yes.
so, but again, it's not necessarily as dire as it seems. Again, it literally was a perfect storm how things happened today. And
Yeah.
so, Sharon and I are not in person like I can't physically give her a Reiki treatment and she can't give me one because we're in two separate locations, but we can give ourselves one and we can co-regulate,
Yes.
and
Yes.
so um doing that for ourselves. And it's funny because we didn't even discuss. She never discussed,
No.
oh, I'm going to give myself some Reiki. I didn't discuss it. We just sort of started doing it because we both knew, okay, there's nobody there, quote unquote, to save Sharon but herself right now. There's nobody here to
Hmm.
save me but myself right now. The parts that
Hmm.
we could do together, we did. And then
Yeah.
the Reiki that we had to do ourselves, that's what we're doing.
Yes. And so, self-soothing is not a weird or feel-good thing. It is actually a necessary part of bringing yourself back to balance,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? I think
Yes.
it's so important to have practices that will calm you.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I want to
And
say
again,
also that you don't
yes,
have to have perfect conditions in order to do this. One might argue, one might argue that, most people would say, why are they giving themselves a Reiki treatment in the middle of their life? Because, because we can,
because
because
we
we owe it
can.
to ourselves,
Yes.
and because we knew that we needed that other level of regulation.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Mhm.
also, um, I believe self-soothing is for yourself. It can, as it is literally called
And the name
self-soothing.
suggests, yeah.
However, right, the name gives a hint. However, it also, in terms of how you relate with others,
Mhm.
it can be a savior. Because again, Sharon and I had
Seriously.
a choice, right? We had a choice. We could have ended up squawking at one another. Well, why did you do it properly? I don't know, whatever. We could have ended up going
That didn't happen. That didn't
it never
happen.
happened. It never
Never happened.
happened. And we tend not to, that's not our thing anyway.
Yeah.
But because we approach each other in a certain way, and because we took the immediate step to self-soothe, we were very quickly in a space of seeking solutions, of being emotionally more centered and able to show up for each other and for all of you who are watching and listening now. Right. So it is
Yes.
for ourselves. It's for ourselves, for our relationship, and also for those of you who are in community with us watching and
with
listening
us.
right now, so that we could
Yes,
show up
because
for you.
it was very important to us not to let you down,
Hmm.
right? To make sure that we were there, that we were people, because we believe in being people of our word. We had an appointment with you. It was very important to let you know what was going on and to get things sorted as soon as we could. But in order to do that, we knew what we had to do for ourselves.
Yes,
So
yes.
yeah, so Reiki is one that, of course, as Reiki practitioners, Lisa and I use a lot, right, on different areas of the body. I'm not going to get into a whole discussion now about whether you actually need to put your hands in particular places. We'll leave that aside. Breath work, of course, right?
Yeah,
Slow
I'm the
inhalation.
exhale queen, so I fully
Yeah.
believe in breath work. And the simplest way is just, just do a longer exhale than your
Hmm.
inhale. That's the simplest way
Yeah.
to do it. So if
Yeah.
you breathe in for 4, in, 2, 3, 4,
Hmm.
in, 2, 3, 4, and then exhale for 6. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And
And you can
immediately,
immediately you can feel it, right? You can feel your emotional temperature coming down,
yes,
right?
absolutely.
Then there's somatic movement of all kind, you know, shaking, tapping, dance, yoga. You know, you can ground yourself by putting your feet on the floor. You can walk
Hmm.
outside in the grass if you're so inclined, but please, people, be careful. It's summer, things are out there.
Yeah, no bugs.
Right?
Get grounded,
Right?
but don't get caught by the bugs. Okay. Yes, somatics. Basically, a lot of it involves movement. So as Sharon
Yes.
said, just even just rocking. Those of you who can see me right now, I have my arms my hands sort of in Wakanda Wakanda stance, so to speak, crossed over my body, and just moving gently, rocking gently yourself from side to side,
Mhm.
giving yourself a hug, and rubbing your arms.
Yes.
All of that can be very helpful. Being
Yes.
aware, as let's say you're doing some deep breathing, as
Hmm.
you are breathing, checking in with various parts of your body and being aware of where feels tense, where feels tight, and consciously choosing to relax that. All
And
of those somatic practices.
let's not forget music,
Oh,
the
yes.
power of music and sound
Mhm.
frequencies. You
Mm.
can create a playlist of music that you find particularly soothing. And
Absolutely.
I find that music has such a way of putting you in a different headspace almost
Yeah.
instantly,
Yeah.
right? So that is a very powerful one. Then there's touch, a warm cup of tea lying down under a weighted blanket. There's so many things that you can do. And many of these things don't require you to set up a particular space to do them. You can breathe anywhere, right?
Yes.
You know,
You
you can,
exactly. Yes.
yes, you can breathe anywhere. In many places, you can put your feet on the ground, right?
Hmm.
May not always want to do that in the office, but in many places you can, right? Um, there's a lot that you can do. You can hug yourself, and as long as you
Hmm.
don't hug, then you take it to a level where you
Nice.
don't feel strange about it.
Yes, exactly. Because if you are, you also use, nuance matters and context matters,
Hmm.
right? And
Yes, of
and
course.
your level of comfort matters as well. Me personally, I'm
Yeah.
a big fan of, if I really need to, I will escape to the ladies' room
Hmm.
and just, sometimes I've been known to, I have a good cry, or all right, yes, I do just sit there. All I'm doing is hugging
Yeah.
myself,
Yeah.
or chanting a mantra or something like that to get
Yes.
myself back to a point where I don't cuss these people out. Frankly,
Yes. So
you don't
you
want to
can
be
you
cussing
can
people
create
out.
the you can create the space no matter where you are
Mhm.
to give yourself time to regulate, to self-regulate for sure, right? There's so much that you can do. And we've given you a list of practices. So I'd be interested to hear which practices do you do? What do you do when you want to self-soothe? Do you take
Which,
that time for yourself?
Yeah,
you know.
speaking of which, sis, because we've mentioned some, so of course both of us lead with Reiki, but are there any that are, I don't know, do you have like a top two or three that you go to?
I quite enjoy, rocking is good. Rocking is
Mhm.
very good. Tapping feet is very good as well, and dance, of
Yeah,
course. What about
yes.
you?
Um, Warmth is big for me, so I do a
Hmm.
lot of, I have more than one electric blanket. So even sometimes if it's hot outside, just the comfort of additional heat
Yeah,
is
yeah.
is, is lovely. That or weighted blanket, a warm cup of tea. When
Hmm.
mommy is here, we have a ritual. We have tea and coffee in the morning. She has coffee, I have tea. And so we share that, have a nice warm drink and start the
Hmm.
day slowly and actually sort of like pre-regulate yourself before
Yes,
the bleepery of the day begins, right? Because
that is
there is likely going to be bleepery,
quite likely,
quite likely,
especially in these times.
and especially in
Especially
these
in these
times.
times. Oh boy.
I
Okay.
would
So
I would also say this because you asked at the top of the show, why is this so needed now? And I mentioned, all of the things that are happening in the world and that people are constantly having to deal with more and process more. But there's also just living in a electronic electronic app driven notification
notification
flooded
heavy.
world,
Yes.
right? And
And sometimes
just
you need to give yourself space.
you need to give yourself space from that. Turn the notifications off, put the phone away, go outside and walk without the phone, right? Walk and look up at the sky,
Mm.
touch a tree, hug a
Yes.
tree, do something like
Walking,
that. But
walking, walking is good.
yes,
I walk a few times a week in the morning, start the day right,
yes,
you
yes, yes.
know? And it is extremely grounding. It's nice to be out in the fresh air. There's always something, you're out there in nature. Wonderful.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And so, sis, we have actually somehow made it to the end of the show, right?
I
Almost the
know.
end. I'm so proud
Okay,
of
so
us.
I am. Let me ask you then. Our tagline is Quiet Minds, Loud Opinions. So, what's something you have a loud opinion about today when it comes to emotional regulation over stimulation and the pressure to stay accessible?
Um, Definitely put yourself first. I think emotional regulation is a gift to yourself, a responsibility, but also, but more so, a gift to yourself, right? It is not about masking and putting on a performance for others. It is self regulation is a way of exhibiting self care and self love. People tend to think of self care as, just going to the spa, which again, always a fan of going to the spa. And yes, Latrice, we're going to set up that spa date very, very soon. I'm always a fan of going to the spa, but there's more to it than going to the spa. And so loving yourself enough to keep
Mhm.
yourself centered or get yourself back to center. Because me personally, again, thinking about how I felt at, just before we started the episode versus how I feel now, I don't like feeling like how I felt before the episode started when it
Yeah,
was panic mode. It is not, for
yeah,
me, it is not an enjoyable feeling. So
yeah.
giving myself Reiki, calling you to co-regulate, asking for help, all of
Hmm.
that, is a gift to
Yeah,
myself. And now
absolutely.
I feel fabulous. I feel positive. I feel upbeat. I feel centered. And so that's what self-regulation means to me. And yeah, that's my loud opinion. Do it for yourself. What about you?
And I want to add my loud opinion is self care and self soothing in this way and self regulation are not optional. They are boundaries that you set in order to protect your well being, your mental health. Um, and they're nobody's business but your own, frankly.
As they say in Barbados, nobody's business. Nobody's business.
Nobody's,
Nobody's business but
nobody's
me own.
beyond.
So yeah,
Right.
so
Well,
mhm,
we are at time, more or less. I just wanted to
yes.
bring up this comment from Katya, who says, pre-regulating at the start of the day, I've never thought of that. I do sometimes try to journal when I'm less activated, but I never thought of doing it as a protective thing. Thanks. You are
Mhm.
very welcome, Katya. Okay, so
Yes, yes.
let us roll down to the end then, and I am going to say that, following on from my loud opinion, regulation is your right, and your body is allowed to ask for what it needs. And it's
Hmm.
about getting regulated is about noticing when you're out of alignment and guiding yourself gently back without shame. What would you like to say as your last word today, sis?
Okay, my closing words for today are that regulation is something that you practice consistently, not something that you wait for. You don't have to wait until you are dysregulated, like we just mentioned, and Katia mentioned. You can pre-regulate, so you can do it as a practice, and every time that you do that, every time that you choose to treat yourself with care and you choose to self regulate, you are adding another building block towards creating the life that you really deserve. And all of you who know me know that I believe that we all need to deserve a soft, centered, serene life, and regulation helps you get towards actually experiencing that. So, and with that,
Wonderful.
folks,
And
with
with
that,
that,
folks, we
folks,
are at the end of this episode called The Regulated Introvert: How to Self-Soothe in a Chaotic World. And thanks to all of you for joining us, whether you are Team Live or Team Replay. And thanks also for your patience and your grace. And we will see you next episode. Take care and stay regulated. Stay calm, folks. Bye.
bye.